Hello, today we are doing our mid-season check-in here in our high tunnel tomatoes at the University of Kentucky Research Farm. I'm with Dr. Gauthier Larson, entomologist here at UK, and I'm Nicole Gauthier, plant pathologist. So together we're going to just give an overview of what we believe is relevant for a mid-season check-in, maybe what we should have been doing to this point, and what we should be doing from here on out. Our tomatoes are flowering and they're starting to fruit. We have some really nice green fruit here right now. These tomatoes are about 2 months old. So, Dr. Larson, what are you seeing here?
I see a very robust growing system, lots of production already happening, kind of lower on the plants, and a disappointing amount of insects and plant pathogens for us.
I know, right? So we're smiling, but usually we like to see a lot more problems here when we do check-ins and videos. But yes, so these plants are really clean. So what do you think has been going on for them to be so clean? So what did the season start like?
Probably a lot of sanitation happened early on, making sure that before the plants were even implemented in the tunnel that everything was nice and sanitized, that there weren't a lot of debris left behind from last growing season. I know that helps to reduce some of my insect friends that are using that as overwintering sites. I can't remember all of the different pathogens that harborage themselves in dead material, but
most of our pathogens do, right? So yeah. Most of our plant pathogens will overwinter in plant debris, and that could be anything from small debris that wasn't swept up from the woven cloth, or of course the larger debris that absolutely should be taken out. And you know, you're talking about sanitation. Sanitation's not just at the end of the season. So sanitation occurs during the season as we remove dead, dying, and diseased plants or plant tissue. So getting it out of here, not dropping it on the ground, because again, those pathogens will, like fungi, will sporulate, and so that just increases the amount of inoculum in the tunnel.
I also think it's often discounted for insects how helpful sanitation early in the season can be, because if you catch pest populations when they're still kind of small, you can usually just pluck them off the plant, mechanically destroy them. You can squish them, get your revenge that way.
Yes.
Very satisfying. Dump it in a bucket of soapy water, anything to just sort of destroy those insects, and you're cutting the problem off at the root, so to speak. You're helping to prevent them from building their populations up. And I'm guessing that's some of what has happened in this particular tunnel, because there just doesn't seem to be much going on bug-wise.
I know, right? It looks very good. So in terms of plant diseases, Jonathan, usually we talk about preventative measures. So we always think about what our problems were last year. Because of that overwintering, you usually predict what problems will be based on what was. So for me, as much as scouting is important, but record keeping, knowing what was happening last year, getting proper diagnosis, and to be able to predict what's going on, so that you've got those fungicides in the chemical shed, so you're ready to go in case anything pops up.
Scouting is so important. It's one of those things that it's absolutely paramount to integrated pest management, which we preach all the time. I think scouting is probably the keystone of that, the most important piece of that. But it's also the one that's easiest to sort of forget or forego.
Right.
It's the one that feels the least productive when you don't find anything, right? Looking around today, you'd probably be like, I just wasted 30 minutes of my time that I could have spent maintaining the tunnel or doing something else. But it is absolutely essential, and it's essential that you write it down. The record-keeping part is also very easy to forego and forget. Unfortunately, that leaves you sort of blind historically. If you know the calendar, if you know what happens in your tunnel historically year to year to year, you can make a lot of really strong predictions for diseases, for insects, for other problems. And yeah, you can have tools on hand, or you can know when to start looking. It's very helpful. It gives you kind of a psychic edge almost over the problems that you deal with.
That's right. And you know, you and I are specialists, right? So our farmers are not specialists, they're generalists. They have everything going on, from marketing to plant health to pest management, customers, and everything around. So yes, you're right. Scouting is sometimes the first thing we cut off the list, and unfortunately might be the missing piece sometimes, because these problems don't just appear one day, right? So you don't walk into a tunnel and see an outbreak of mites or an outbreak of leaf spots. They were there in low levels for quite a while before that outbreak.
Very few things happen overnight in entomology and pathology. There are some exceptions, I would say. But for the most part, yeah, it's been there building. It's just been unnoticed because they are good at their jobs. They're good at being pests, right? They're good at hiding. They're good at being tiny and unnoticeable and not creating symptoms. and unfortunately they sneak by us sometimes.
Yeah, so scouting, record keeping, and understanding what's their proper diagnosis, and so hedging all of your bets as you get to this mid-season point. Also, I'm going to switch gears a little bit, Dr. Larson. We've got the tunnel open now. So the last time we did one of these conversations, the tunnels were closed. It was cold. It was early spring. So now it's summer, or approaching summer anyway.
Right.
Today is cool, but most of what's here on out is going to be hot. The tunnel's going to be open. What does that do for pest populations?
Well, Dr. Gauthier, this is opening the force field a little bit, just like they do in the Star Wars movies to let the Star Cruisers come in and stuff. This is absolutely letting things have access to the tunnel, perhaps in ways that they weren't getting as the season began. So insects are going to have easier entry at this point. We were joking before that we found a periodical cicada. You found one buzzing around in one of the tunnels. That's a bit of a surprise.
A Star Cruiser.
Yeah, just swinging right into the tunnel. So there's going to be things that are going to crawl in. When I look at these tunnels, I'm very happy to kind of see the edge, because there is a barrier. There's a bit of a strip around the tunnel that is preventing some of the plants out there from getting close to the edge. That helps with insects. Insects are tiny. They aren't able to traverse great distances with ease. And so having a green bridge, having grass and weeds that run right up to the tunnel, gives them a real entry point to easily crawl into the tunnel. And if we're keeping this kind of weed-free, grass-free barrier around it, it's very beneficial to try and prevent some of that. Others are flying, so of course they don't need that green bridge, and you might end up dealing with those. But yeah, right now I would say I'd be on high alert. I would be putting out some sticky cards, initiating some vacuum sampling, doing some visual assessments just to see if anything is saying, hey, that tunnel looks like a really good place to live. Like, it's warm, it's protected, none of my natural enemies are in there. I think I'm going to move in.
And sticky cards are for monitoring, not for management.
Sticky cards are for monitoring, not for management.
I know, even as the pathologist, I see that a lot. Some people thinking those sticky cards catching insects or managing them somehow, but they are just for monitoring.
Sometimes it's even sold like that. You'll see people claim online that, oh, you put this up and it catches all the insects, but unfortunately, there's no sticky card big enough to catch the pest pressure that's going to be introduced into this tunnel.
Right. So speaking of open tunnels, I'll give you some disease background.
Okay,
so
I'm excited.
I know you are. So plant diseases are really driven by temperature and free water, so relative humidity. So until now, our tunnels were closed, humidity building up in tunnels. As we open these sides, we have a lot more air exchange. So on a dry day and dry parts of the year, that's really great. So we've lowered our risk for disease if we can reduce our relative humidity below 70%.
Oh, okay.
But we know what's about to happen, right? On these rainy days, look, it's cloudy today, rain this morning, it will rain tonight, so that means that our relative humidity is going to go right back up. And worse than that is there's nothing that we could do about it, right?
You can't put towels down and soak up some. I see some drips, right? Like it's definitely wet in here.
Right. So when we have that high humidity, we have that high risk. Our aim is to increase air circulation in other ways to help dry things out. And look at this row spacing. This is wonderful. So a good row spacing will help circulate air. And this particular research project is divided into plots, but we do have some space between these plots. So plants are close together, but they are tied up, so we've got some airflow under that canopy.
Yeah.
So air circulation is always beneficial, and in this case, it's helping disease management, but I'm sure that helps with pests as well.
Continual staking, it looks like as well. We have strings indicating kind of each stage of growth for the tomatoes.
Yes, and so that really makes a big difference, and it helps to scout as well, right?
Yes, it helps to give you the top where they're usually going to infest first. I do like the spacing here. It's bigger than what you get in a grocery aisle at Kroger.
That's right.
This is wider than the real estate we get there.
And we have the woven cloth here, so we don't have weed problems, because weeds will either harbor pests and pathogens, or they can just reduce airflow and really affect that air circulation that's so important.
And no herbicides for high tunnels.
No herbicides for high tunnels, limited pesticides for high tunnels. So here in Kentucky, we consider these greenhouses. So any pesticide, that's insecticide or fungicide used, must be labeled for greenhouse use. And that's really important for growers to understand. And of course, they can always check with their county extension agent if they have additional questions. So anything else you'd like to add before we continue with our scouting of these 4 high tunnels?
I think we'll just keep scouting around, probably continually be disappointed for our problematic friends. But yeah, I think everything's going well in here. I'm guessing that they've got some programs in place to keep that going and make sure that everything stays nice and green. And hopefully the folks watching do too.
Okay, and we will put links in the description for to help with that scouting in case you do run into a tunnel or your tunnel is not quite as clean as this one. So all the links down in the description.